It was December 24, 2025, Christmas Eve, and the world outside my Oak Park bungalow looked like a greeting card nobody had asked for. Thick, silent snow blanketing every roof, every branch, every car parked along the street. The kind of snow that muffles sound, that makes you feel like the universe is holding its breath. I stood at the kitchen window, cradling a chipped ceramic mug that said, "World's Okayest Teacher," watching fat flakes drift past the street lamp. Marco had left 2 hours earlier for what he called a quick sight check in the western suburbs. "I'll be back before the tamales are ready," he'd promised, kissing me longer than usual, his lips tasting faintly of the peppermint candy cane he'd stolen from the tree. I remember the way his hand lingered on the small of my back, the way he smelled like fresh coffee and the cedarwood cologne I'd bought him last Father's Day. I waved from the porch as his black Ford F-150 disappeared around the corner, tail lights winking red against the white. I never saw him alive again. The doorbell rang at 11:47 a.m. 2 Lake County Sheriff's deputies stood on the steps, snow dusting their shoulders like powdered sugar. The younger one, a woman with kind brown eyes, spoke first. "Mrs. Elena Ramirez?" My stomach dropped through the floorboards before she finished the sentence. I knew. Every wife knows that tone, that posture, the way their shoulders carry the weight of words they don't want to say. They told me the rest in careful, practiced fragments. Black ice on Route 12 near Wakanda, a pickup crossing the median, head-on collision, pronounced dead at the scene. Instantaneous. No pain. They handed me a card, told me someone from victim services would call, asked if I had family nearby. I nodded, even though the only family I wanted was the one who just left in a truck that would never come back. I closed the door. The house smelled of cinnamon and masa, the tamale steamer hissing softly on the stove. I slid down the wall until I sat on the cold tile, knees to chest, and the first real sob ripped out of me. Ugly, animal, unstoppable. Ava was 19, home from UIC for break. Sophia was 16, still asleep upstairs with her earbuds in. I had to tell them. I had to shatter their Christmas the way mine had just been shattered. But first, I sat there, alone with the truth. Marco was gone. 23 years, 2 daughters, one life built brick by careful brick, and it ended on a snowy highway 10 miles from home. That's where this story begins, not with the accident, but with everything that came after. Everything I thought I knew about my husband, about our marriage, about myself. Because Marco's death didn't just take him away. It opened every locked drawer, every hidden folder, every whispered secret he'd carried for years. And when I finally looked inside, I discovered that the man I loved had been living 2 lives. One with me, one without. One clean, one stained. One full of light, one drowning in shadow. We met in the fall of 2002 in a lecture hall at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign that always smelled faintly of wet wool and old coffee. I was 20, Elena Vasquez, daughter of a Pilsen butcher and a seamstress who worked nights at a dry cleaner. I wore thrift store cardigans and carried dog-eared copies of The House on Mango Street like talismans. Marco Ramirez was 21, 6'2", blue-eyed, raised in Naperville by parents who believed in orthodontia, college funds, and annual ski trips to Colorado. He wore Patagonia fleeces and talked with the easy confidence of someone who'd never had to explain where he was from. Our first real conversation happened during a heated class discussion on immigration policy. I argued passionately that borders were artificial lines drawn by people who never had to cross them. Marco raised his hand and in the calmest voice imaginable asked, "But if everyone gets to cross, what happens to the people already here who are struggling?" I turned in my seat, ready to fire back. He met my eyes without flinching. Something shifted in the air between us, electric, dangerous, alive. After class, he caught up with me in the hallway. "I didn't mean to sound like an asshole," he said. "I just wanted to understand." I studied him for a long moment. "Then ask better questions," I replied. He grinned. "Can I ask you one over coffee?" That coffee turned into late-night talks in the student union, then walks across the quad when the wind off the lake was sharp enough to cut skin. He loved that I could recite Neruda in Spanish. I loved that he could fix my ancient laptop with nothing but a screwdriver and stubbornness. By spring, we were inseparable. He learned to make salsa verde from my mom over FaceTime. I learned to tolerate football Sundays with his dad. When he proposed in 2004 under the Buckingham Fountain at midnight, the water lit pink and gold. I said yes before he finished the question. We married the next summer in a backyard in Pilsen. Mariachi on one side of the aisle, classic rock on the other. Tamales and pulled pork sharing the same table. Our families didn't quite know what to make of each other at first. By the end of the night, they were dancing to Cielito Lindo and Sweet Home Alabama back to back. The early years felt charmed. We rented a tiny apartment in Logan Square, then bought the Oak Park bungalow in 2007 right before the market crashed. Marco started at a mid-sized civil engineering firm downtown. I landed a job at Phillips Academy High School on the South Side, teaching American literature to juniors who rolled their eyes at The Great Gatsby until I showed them how Gatsby was just a hustler with better clothes. Ava arrived in 2008, a tiny bundle with my curls and Marco's startling blue eyes. Sophia followed in 2010, fierce and fearless from the moment she could walk. We built the life everyone dreams of: soccer Saturdays, family road trips to the Dells and Starved Rock, Christmas Eves with tamales and gingerbread houses. Marco was the steady one, level-headed in emergencies, quick to apologize after arguments, always the first to reach for my hand in the dark. I was the emotional one, the crier, the one who felt everything too deeply. We balanced each other, or so I thought. The first real crack appeared around 2015. Marco's firm had won several large public contracts, bridges in Wisconsin, highway expansions downstate, even a consulting gig in Mexico City. Travel became constant. He'd leave Sunday night, return Friday afternoon, exhausted but smiling. I told myself it was normal. Big projects mean big hours. The money was good, too. Better than good. New hardwood floors, a minivan that didn't smell like old Cheerios, dance classes for the girls, even a small cabin on Lake Geneva we bought as a family investment. I asked once, teasing, "Are you secretly winning the lottery on these trips?" He laughed, kissed my forehead. "Just working hard, mi amor, for us." But there were signs. Small, easy to dismiss. Texts that came at 2 a.m. from Client J. Long silences when I asked about his week. A new habit of locking his office door when he worked from home. I ignored them because the alternative was unbearable. Because our life was beautiful on the surface, and I wanted to keep it that way. Then came March 2020. The world locked down. Schools went remote. Marco worked from the spare bedroom we turned into his office. I taught from the dining room table, muting myself every 5 minutes to break up fights over whose turn it was to use the iPad. The house felt smaller every day. Marco's calls were always behind closed doors. One afternoon, while he was out running, his only escape, I did something I'd sworn I'd never do. I opened his desk drawer. Bank statements, printouts, transfers to an account in the Caymans, wire confirmations to a name I didn't recognize. My hands shook so badly I dropped the papers. When he came home, sweaty and flushed, I was waiting in the living room with the stack in front of me. "Tell me what this is," I said quietly. He looked at the papers, then at me, and something in his face collapsed. He sat on the couch, head in hands. "I never wanted you to know. The story came out in pieces, halting, painful. It started in 2016 on a project in northern Mexico. A government official demanded a facilitation fee for permits. Marco said no. His boss at the time pulled him aside. Pay it or we lose the contract. And if we lose it, people lose jobs. Marco paid, once, then again. Then it became expected. He tried to stop, but threats followed. Exposure, lawsuits, deportation issues for subcontractors. He set up a shell account to hide the money flowing out. Some of it was bribes. Some of it was personal. Personal how? I asked, voice cracking. He looked up, eyes red. There was someone, a woman, Julia. She was the project coordinator on the Texas side. It started as work, then it wasn't. It lasted almost 2 years. I ended it right before COVID. I swear, Alina, I ended it. The room spun. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water I didn't drink. When I came back, he was crying. Big, ugly sobs I'd seen only twice before, when his father died and when Sophia was born. I kept sending money after, he whispered. Not for her, for the boy, our son, Mateo. He's 6 now. I don't remember what happened next. I think I screamed. I think I threw something. The girls were upstairs playing Minecraft, headphones on, oblivious. Marco begged me to stay, to listen. I couldn't. I left the house, drove aimlessly until the gaslight came on, parked in a Jewel lot and sobbed until my throat was raw. We spent the next 6 months in limbo. Separate bedrooms, therapy twice a week, long, brutal conversations at 3 a.m. He showed me everything, every email, every transfer, every photo of the little boy who had Marco's smile and my husband's nose. Julia lived in Dallas, raising Mateo alone. She'd known about me from the beginning. She'd never asked him to leave. I hated her. I hated him. I hated myself for not seeing it sooner. But hate is exhausting. Eventually, exhaustion gave way to questions. Why did he stay? Why didn't he tell me? Why did he risk everything? Because I loved you more than I could stand to lose you, he said one night, voice hoarse. Every time I thought about confessing, I pictured your face. I couldn't do it. So I tried to fix it quietly. I thought if I could clean up the mess, you'd never have to know. We didn't divorce. I couldn't imagine it, not after 20 years, not after 2 daughters, not after everything. Instead, we rebuilt, slowly, painfully. Marco left the firm, started his own small consultancy focused on ethical infrastructure projects, public works for underserved communities, no international contracts. He met Mateo twice a year in neutral cities, always with Julia's permission, always sending support. He told me everything, no more secrets. By 2023, we were better. Not perfect, never perfect, but honest. We laughed again. We made love again. We held hands watching Ava graduate high school. We cried together when Sophia's best friend moved to Seattle. We volunteered at the local food pantry on weekends. Marco even started speaking at small business ethics panels, telling sanitized versions of his story as cautionary tales. I started an anonymous blog, Letters from the Other Side, about forgiveness, betrayal, second chances. Thousands of women wrote to me. I never told them my real name. Christmas Eve 2025 was supposed to be quiet, sweet. The girls were home, the tree was up, tamales were steaming. Marco was supposed to be home by 3. He never made it. The funeral was 3 days after Christmas, standing room only. People I hadn't seen in years came, old neighbors, former students, colleagues from his new firm. They told me how much he'd helped them, how kind he was, how he'd changed their lives. I nodded, numb. Ava spoke. Sophia couldn't. I didn't. I couldn't find words that would break me open. 3 weeks later, while packing up his office, I found the metal lockbox under a false drawer bottom. Inside, a journal, letters, photos. The journal started in 2017. I hate myself today more than yesterday. I kissed Elena goodnight and thought about Julia. I'm 2 people now. One belongs to my family, the other belongs in hell. I read every page, every confession, every plan to come clean that he never followed through with, every time he wrote my name like a prayer. At the bottom of the box was an envelope labeled, "For Elena, if I never get the chance to say it." I opened it with shaking hands. My love, if you're reading this, I'm either dead or I finally found the courage to tell you everything. I hope it's the second, but if it's the first, know this: you were never second. You were the only truth I ever told myself. Everything good in me came from loving you, the girls, the life we made. I failed you in the worst way. I broke the one promise I swore I'd keep. But I never stopped loving you, not for 1 second. If there's forgiveness in you, take it. If there isn't, I understand. Just know I died loving you. Forever yours, Marco. I sat on the floor of his office until the sun went down. Then I cried until there was nothing left. The next months were a fog. Grief on top of betrayal on top of grief. I told Ava and Sophia in February over hot chocolate at the kitchen table. They listened in stunned silence. Ava cried. Sophia got angry, furious at her father, at Julia, at the whole world. We went to therapy as a family. We talked, we yelled, we hugged. We started to heal. In April 2026, I flew to Dallas alone. Julia met me at a park near her house. Mateo was there, 8 years old, kicking a soccer ball against a tree. He looked so much like Marco, it stole my breath. Julia was kind, quiet, tired. She didn't apologize for the affair. She didn't have to. She told me stories instead. How Marco read him bedtime stories in Spanish, how he taught him to draw suspension bridges, how he always brought a little stuffed bear with a Chicago flag on its paw. He talked about you all the time, she said. He said you were the reason he wanted to be better, for all of us. I didn't hug her. I didn't hate her either. I just understood. Life is messy. People are weak. Love is complicated. I visit Mateo now, once or twice a year. The girls come sometimes. We're building something strange and beautiful, a family born from ashes. I kept the house. I kept teaching. I turned the anonymous blog into a real one, under my name, A Widow's Truth. It went viral. Women write to me every day, some betrayed, some grieving, some both. I tell them what I wish someone had told me. You don't have to forgive, but you can choose to live anyway. Marco's death didn't end our story. It changed it. It forced me to see the whole man, not the hero I'd built in my mind, not the villain I feared, but the flawed, struggling, loving human he really was. I still talk to him, late at night when the house is quiet. I tell him about Sophia's college applications, Ava's new internship, Mateo's last soccer goal. I tell him I'm okay, that we're okay. Sometimes I swear I hear him answer, "We've got this, mi amor." And for the first time in a long time, I believe him. If you like this story of mine, please leave a nice comment and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you.